The Yoko factor is the beginning of the end for Season 4. Finally, Adam's plans are mostly revealed, and we get confrontations that have been building for the entire season. It works because although there is a significant amount of plot stuff, there is enough space for each of the characters to have their moment. In many ways, it serves as a check into the emotional state of everyone just before the final battle, which is actually a very nice breather that a lot of previous seasons didn't have room for. The closest comparison is Becoming Part 1, and that was almost exclusively focused on Angel. Here it's a different vampire that takes the center stage, and that is Spike. While he's certainly been a significant part of previous episodes, it was mostly reactive, at least after he got the chip put in. Now he is actively making plans and gets some of his previous glory back. This episode is basically taking the scene from Doom, where he mocks Xander and Willow, and turning it into a full episode. It makes sense, fitting with his character's love of small cruelties, as well as emotional intelligence that allows him to manipulate the Scoobies. Some will say this episode took it too far, with him seemingly tearing apart year-long friendships with only a few words, but that's ignoring the greater context. There have been a few scenes throughout the season that have emphasized the growing distance between Willow and Buffy. At the beginning of the season, they told each other everything, with Willow eagerly waiting for details, without any details, of Buffy's night with Parker. Later on, there are many scenes of one or both of them returning to their room, finding the other bed empty. Even when they talk, they are keeping secrets from one another. Buffy with Riley's role in the initiative, and Willow with Tara. There is also Buffy's reaction to Willow being gay. While eventually she seems to accept it, there was still a significant amount of shock and odd behavior. While next season it's made clear that Tara has become part of their found family, here there is still a distance and an unknown quality. Meanwhile, Xander has been feeling out of place all season. His friends have gone off to college, and he has bounced around between a dozen different jobs without ever finding anything that could be called a career. His only constant has been Anya, and while their relationship has developed, he is afraid of commitment, and as such does not consider it to be a permanent part of his life. Spike recognizes all of this, and goes to each of them in turn and makes an offhanded comment about an insecurity, implying that the others are dismissive of their struggles. Even Giles is affected by this, as he is still lacking a role, no longer being a watcher or a librarian. He ends up descending into the drink, and while he's not exactly an aggressive drunk, he still manages a few harmful words. This all comes to a head in a scene in his apartment, where the members of the main gang shout at each other, trying to both deny allegations that Spike has made, but also reflect on the actual circumstances that have changed. There is an amusing cut where Tara and Anya are hiding in the bathroom, worrying about how long the argument is going to take. In the meantime, Angel has come to town, following up on events that happened in his titular show. In summary, Faith arrived in LA, tortured Wesley, and tried to commit suicide by Angel, but instead he took her in, trying to give her space to grow and get better. The council had other ideas in mind, and arrived toting machine guns and helicopters. Eventually they're defeated, but Faith decides to give herself up to the authorities and goes to jail. Buffy is very unhappy with the circumstances, and she and Angel fight, both with words and fists. They end the encounter on a very hostile note. Angel then decides unilaterally that he needs to go back to Sunnydale, beat up some random soldiers, and then Buffy's new boyfriend, instead of talking to her about anything. Eventually he is forced to talk to Buffy, and offers a fairly lame apology, all things considered. Most of the Angel stuff this episode doesn't really work. While him being unable to communicate fits with his character, without the context of a different series, a lot of the emotions don't work, and his actions just seem random. During the episode, Riley pulls a gun on Angel, but it will have virtually no effect, which certainly adds to the powerlessness that he feels, emphasizing how little he can do. Similarly, Buffy asks to be left alone with Angel to talk, and he refuses to leave Buffy's room, so they just go into the hallway. Riley just stands there, arms crossed, like an RA trying to prevent a young couple from having sex. Angel also offers a fairly amusing smirk as they leave. He may be an asshole, but at least he's not boring. There's also an odd moment where Buffy and Riley talk about what's happened, and she says, "Have I ever given you a reason to not trust me?" She seems to believe she hasn't, and Riley agrees with her, but frankly, Buffy has lied to him a lot. First with her Slayer identity, although that was somewhat understandable. Then she trickle-truthed him about Angel, first in introducing him as a concept when discussing Faith, then later she told Riley everything, except the fact that it was them having sex that triggered his evil side. Xander is the one to reveal this, but unlike many of his other interactions around Buffy, he wasn't intentionally doing it. After all of this, she reveals that Adam killed Forrest, and then Riley leaves. Initially it appears he was just upset, but actually was a chip being activated in his chest, effectively mind-controlling him. This is an odd last-minute addition that doesn't really fully come together. This episode does have a few of the trademark Season 4 comedic moments. Willow and Tara finally get their cat, and they admire its cuteness collectively. It's a nice, small scene that also helps to highlight how far apart Buffy and Willow have grown, which makes Spike's later comments hit harder. There's also a second scene of Giles singing, and the little gasp is one of the funniest parts of the episode, and possibly the season. During the final scene of the episode, after the big argument, Buffy says there is no prophecy about a chosen one and her friends. This is of course contrary to the entirety of the series so far. Her relationships, both romantic and platonic, are what separate Buffy from other Slayers, and what have allowed her to survive so long. Many Slayers die before they're 18, and not even to any apocalyptic threat. Spike himself has killed 2 Slayers, and while he's certainly renowned for it, otherwise he is a fairly bog-standard vampire. While this episode does depict the cracks that have formed in the group, it also makes it clear that they still love and care about each other, and that's what ultimately allows them to defeat Adam, a foe that Buffy has faced multiple times and had no chance against. Buffy's connections are her greatest strength, although that payoff won't be until next episode. For now we'll leave it here, but the conclusion of the storyline is coming up very soon. I hope you've enjoyed, and be well.